Hello and welcome back to Versus Live. I'm Todd Anderson.
I'm Ross Merriam.
And we got Taylor in the booth today, making sure that we can interact with Twitch chat. What do we have on the docket for today, Ross?
So we were playing a bit of Modern. There's a lot of Modern tournaments going on last weekend. We had 2 Grand Prix, one in Bilbao, one in Tampa, and then we had the Open in Philadelphia. And so a lot of Modern decks to digest and look to, and one deck sort of rose, let's say flew above the rest.
Yeah, flip-flapped above the rest.
Yes.
I believe there were 19 copies, but it might have been 20 copies of Izzet Phoenix in day 2 of the Open. Now, when
Out of 85.
Out of 85. So not quite 25%, somewhere closer to 20%, I think. But still an insane showing for Modern specifically, where Modern is usually touted as the format that has the most deck diversity. I would say that at its most dominant point, the Eldrazi decks were somewhere around 30% of the field, maybe closer to 40. We haven't quite gotten there yet, but I think we're well on our way there.
Yeah, and if you look at the results of the Grand Prix, there was actually a post on Reddit that compiled all 3 of them together, because all of the Day 2 metagames were posted, and it was about 21.5% across all 3 of them. So, it wasn't just that Philadelphia was an aberration or one of the Grand Prix was an aberration. It was consistently around 20% to a little bit more, as it Phoenix was, of the Day 2 metagames at these tournaments. And it put 8 people in the top 8 across all 3, so that's a third of your top 8 spots. Yeah. It was in the finals of all 3 tournaments, and it won 2 of them.
Yeah, that's a really impressive showing, and today we're going to be going over those finals again, because in the finals it was always Phoenix v something else, and in order to get to that point, you have to imagine that the people who got to the finals had to beat Phoenix multiple times throughout the tournament, because it's just that big of a part of the metagame.
Yeah, so they were definitely decks that had success on the weekend. A couple of them could not quite cross the finish line against the final test, but we're going to give them another shot today.
Yeah.
So we're going to rehash all 3 of those finals matches. We're going to start with the one that happened at the Open in Philadelphia. This is Austin Collins on Izzet Phoenix, who won the tournament versus Jonathan Orr, a former Open champion playing Golgari Midrange.
Yeah. And now this Golgari Midrange deck, Tom Ross has been on StarCityGames.com writing articles about this deck, touting it as one of the ways to best interact, not only with Arclight Phoenix, but in some ways just like being a really well-positioned deck in the format, because it's flexible. It has the ability to play a longer game with things like Tireless Tracker, Kalidas Trader of Get, and Liliana of the Veil, but also can constrict the speed of the game, or constrict the amount of turns played in the game by just going discard spell into either Tarmogoyf or Dark Confidant and really rolling the ball there.
Yeah, these reactive decks historically have struggled in Modern, but that's in large part due to the diversity of the metagame. So when you show up to a normal Modern tournament and 1 deck or 0 decks are more than 10% of the Day 2 metagame, you're going to be playing against a lot of different things, a lot of diverse strategies. It's impossible for the reactive decks, or it has generally been impossible for them to prepare for everything.
Right.
But when you have a dominant deck show up like Izzet Phoenix and the metagame narrows around it, constricts around it, it's a lot easier for these reactive decks to say, okay, these are the things I need to beat. Prepare to beat those decks, and they usually have good tools to do so.
Yeah, and we've seen that Tom Ross top-8'd his regionals, and we see Jonathan Orr was the last undefeated player in the tournament at 10-0, and made it all the way to the finals, where he finally lost to a Phoenix deck. I saw him beat Amulet Titan multiple times, I saw him beat Phoenix multiple times, and then just at the end of the finish line, just stuck on 2 lands in Game 3 of the finals against Austin Collins and couldn't get the job done. But we're going to see if I can give him a little retribution today and take down Arclight Phoenix in the hands of you.
Yeah, there's one other thing I want to say about the Golgari deck, and that's, we think of Tom Ross as somebody who plays very low to the ground aggressive decks, and he does for good reason. He's very good with them. And typically, when players who are known for a narrow range of decks start playing something outside of that range, that's when you want to take notice. Yes. Because Tom has to have good reason to get outside of that. And so he must think that there's something really strong happening here with this Golgari deck. He's had success with it, made the semifinals of his regionals in Dallas a couple weeks ago. And I have to imagine we'll see him playing it if he's in the Modern seat for his team in Cincinnati, and would not be surprised if he puts up another good finish with it there. So we're going to put it through its paces here. It's got some really good tools for this matchup. As I said, you these decks are able to adjust to beat the top deck almost every time and have a good game against it. We've got Kalitas. That's going to be a really good one. We've got main deck Graveyard Hate with Nile Spellbomb. Scavenging Ooze is a really good card in this matchup because it can dodge a Lightning Bolt while answering. It lets you just answer Phoenix with regular removal.
I'll say this. Jund was a good deck in Modern for quite a long time. Not only was it one of the killers for things like Splinter Twin, but it also had quite a good matchup after Splinter Twin was banned because Infect was one of the top decks. And whenever you play against a linear strategy that kind of focuses on creatures, your removal spells are quite good because they play double duty and knocking off like problematic creatures in Dark Confidant, Tarmogoyf matchups while also disrupting that combo deck that's at the top of the format, whether Splinter Twin or Infect. Now, Lightning Bolt is a card that has fallen out of favor significantly in the last 6 months or so. Just as far as creatures are concerned, Death Shadow doesn't die to it, Gurmag, Tarmogoyf, Thing in the Ice, just the stock of it has decreased. And the only real reason I think it sees a lot of play right now is because of how good it is in Izzet Phoenix. And if you're a deck that can kind of get away with not playing red at all, I think cutting the red out of the Jund decks for the Golgari decks just makes perfect sense. Yeah,
you get a better mana base, you get Field of Ruin to help you against the big mana decks, which is huge, and then you're already wanting Surgical Extraction to deal with Phoenix and Dredge, and then it becomes a play against Tron, where you just Field of Ruin or Assassin's Trophy and early Tron land, Surgical them, and then they have to play straight up. They give you a lot of time while they're developing their mana to hardcast their spells naturally, and that matchup becomes a lot more winnable.
And of course, Jonathan Ord doing something that I haven't seen a ton of, playing 4 copies of Assassin's Trophy to go along with those 4 copies of Field of Ruin to eventually overload the overall number of basics in your opponent's deck, because most modern decks I would say play roughly 3 basic lands. I think that's about average, and with your 8 things that give them a basic land, they're not always going to have one to find as the game goes long, and so then your Assassin's Trophy just become vindicates, and that's pretty insane. And your Field of Ruin becomes Strip Mine. It's just all upside.
Yeah, no, I do like overloading. We've seen it in Azorius too, that has Path and Field of Ruin, and is also playing a long game, and that is coming up here as well.
All right. Well, we're not going to take any questions right this moment, but if you have any that you would like us to answer when we have a little bit of downtime, our director Taylor will be taking those. So just add SCG Tour in the Twitch chat. If you want us to talk about whether or not we think Faithless Looting should be banned, you can ask that. What card do you think should be banned if it's not Faithless Looting, or do you think the format's just fine? It's all stuff we're going to be talking about today as we go over Arclight Phoenix versus the 3 decks that we think best positioned to potentially take them down.
These are definitely 3 on the short list that I think have the potential to do it.
All right, let's roll a dice. See who goes first.
You want odd or even?
Always odd. No, always even. Sorry. But I said odd.
I don't even know what that means.
What's that? What?
Yeah.
That's just heads I win, tails you lose.
We're just roll it again.
Okay.
Make a definitive roll. Even. This one's 8.
Roll on the table.
Yeah, all right.
It was on the larger table. It just wasn't under camera.
All right.
I'm a very aggressive die roller. I don't like the people that just sort of plop them down, because I'm never really sure if they're cheating me when that happens. I like to see it actually roll. So if you roll dice against me, make sure they roll. Otherwise, I'm going to stink eye you.
You heard it. Twitch chat, he likes to see heads roll.
My hand is pretty good. We don't have a discard spell, but other than that, our hand is nice.
My hand is also quite good. Couple lands, couple threats, some spells.
Start with Treetop Village. And now, even though we could play a black mana source and hold up like a removal spell in case our opponent's playing 1 mana creatures, I think it's important just to make sure we get Treetop down, especially because we know the matchup. If we didn't know the matchup, there's a chance I led with Blooming Marsh hold up push so I could tempo push into Bob. But
yeah, I think I want both of these. 3rd land is going to be good, and then another spell that's also quite good. So let's top.
All right. Since we only have 1 black mana, we could wait and Thoughtseize first to try to take his removal spell. But as the game goes long, something's going to die to a removal spell. And if it's the Bob, that's not that big of a deal right now. And if he doesn't kill it, then we're in great shape. I think Ross has already failed the Bob test.
Yep.
It's bad news bears for Ross.
So I could play this, but that doesn't really build towards anything. So I think I'd rather just take the risk of playing into Liliana and get my Thing in the Ice down, and just force Todd to have it?
I don't have it. I mean, I don't have the Lily, but I do have the answer.
Yeah.
Right,
You
so
go to 18 for the ooze.
Yep. All right. No. Play this Blooming Marsh. I'm going to go ahead and just Fatal Push on the Thing in the Ice. Don't want to give him a land. And that allows us to play 2 spells with the ooze.
18 all?
Yep.
Okay. Let's force you to have another removal spell.
All right.
Pass the turn.
Pretty easy to chain removal spells.
When you have Dark Confidant.
When you have Dark Confidant, yeah, exactly. Okay, I'm going to lead off with a Thoughtseize. In case he's playing Izzet Charm, I want to go Thoughtseize into the Assassin's Trophy.
Not assuming that Todd has a removal spell for Thing in the Ice, I think I would just cast this in response to help my thing. I'm assuming this Thoughtseize is just going to take this card as well. So, yeah, I'll just scour myself.
Okay.
Trigger the thing. There's my removal spell that I needed. That was about the worst card. Sure.
Parametamorphose, Pyromancer. Those are all quite good. And we can't answer Thing in the Ice and Pyromancer, so we'll just take the Ascension, let Ross spin his wheels next turn. We'll go ahead and trophy the Thing in the Ice. It's actually not super good because he's able to use that mana pretty easily, but we'll just try to hope that he just doesn't have a good payoff here. And okay, tag for 4.
I'm at 14.
We could have played a land first that was untapped and then eaten things, but we want to get our tapped lands on the battlefield quickly. And if he draws a removal spell that can kill ooze, he's almost 100% going to kill Dark Confidant anyway.
So you have 3 cards in hand, and I know one of them's a swamp?
I have 3. I have 18 to 14.
Yep.
Yes, I think.
Okay.
Here you go.
Well, we're going to need to find something good here, but we're going to see a lot of cards.
I got 16. You didn't take your 2 off the Thoughtseize.
What did I take 2 from before that? The
Oh,
Dark
you revealed
Confidant.
you
Dark
revealed these.
Confidant.
Okay, 14, 16.
I thought that sounded wrong, but I tried to figure out where my other 2 points of damage came from.
Okay, Manamorphose.
Yep.
Make blue-red. Red floating Thought Scour myself.
Yep.
Nice.
Oh, classic Thought Scours.
Reveal a bolt and then draw a land.
Yeah, so we can mill the 2 good cards, draw the bad one.
That's how it goes.
Okay, we've got red Siln Pool. We'll play Manamorphose with that red. Make blue-red. Red floating Visions. And we're going to want this one. Let's, looting.
Oh, I'm stupid. I should help with green. Here it comes.
Is this card going to do anything? Yeah, I guess there's a good chance it can. So let's just discard the lands. And which one do I want to Lightning Bolt?
That's good news. He doesn't have a Phoenix.
Yep, did not find a Phoenix. So I have 2 things in my graveyard and a Snapcaster Mage that I've milled. If I hit the Confidant, I'm going to put a 4th. Todd can just make a 6/6 ooze and attack me to 8.
Yeah, and this also locks out your ability to, like, Faithless Looting next turn plus Phoenixes, but...
So, I don't know how
It's tough.
Yeah, but both of them are really problematic.
But me being able to make a 6/6, I think,
Yeah.
puts you on a 2-turn clock because I have the creature lands.
Yeah, I think I have to
and
kill the
it
use.
stifles your easiest way to fall
Yes.
back in the game. All right, 15.
Yep.
All right, let's play Tracker. Play Swamp. Get a clue.
Yep.
Tap for 2.
I'm at 12.
Your turn.
Whew. That's a card. So you've played the Swamp I know about. I know you have a Fatal Push.
Yes. Now, from my side of things, it's pretty clear that I'm just having to fade whatever Ross is doing. The Phoenixes without the ooze in play are just going to be good if he's able to hit them. There's not a whole lot I can do about it except just race with Tireless Tracker. We can try to slow them down by spot removaling, but for the most part, we've done our best to slow him down with discard, killing 2 things in the ice, but he hit a turn last turn where it was very unlikely that I should have survived, let alone thrived. He saw 20 cards last turn or whatever with his mill spells and draw spells. Just missing the Phoenixes was just very fortunate for me.
I guess I should just do this first. I'm going to Surgical Fatal Push. Go to 10.
It's pretty good.
Has the trophy?
Yes, have trophy. We'll travel.
To the exile zone.
I think that's going to get me. I was trying to... So, the trophy I have a hard time beating regardless. I was trying to come up with a way I could potentially play Drake and hope you draw another push to get you. But if you sniff out... If I play Drake and pass with Surgical in hand and you sniff it out, you just don't crack the clue. And then you untap and play a land and get a second clue. And you can push on command with Revolt.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know how we're beating that trophy.
Right, Ross is at 10. I'm at 15. That's why I don't think Crackling Drake should be in the deck. It's a big doofus. It just doesn't matter. You're just too far behind by the time that you need it.
It was the card that could... It's the only card that could steal this game.
Was it? Or was Pyromancer Center potentially better because it got around Fatal Push, and then you could have Surgical Extraction Trophy?
Then I wouldn't be able to turn on Ascension fast enough.
I don't know. At what point did you draw Crackling Drake?
Last turn.
There it is. Boom.
But I thought I was going to get you out of removal and then kill you with Crackling Drake. So at this point, I probably just have to play the Drake into the trophy and then hope to draw into enough to interact next turn. I guess I could try to hit a removal spell this turn to deal with the tracker and take some pressure off of me.
I mean, I have the land. I can activate both creature lands, right? No, I'm short.
Yeah.
Never mind.
Next turn, you can crack 1 clue and end step, play a land, get another clue, crack that, and activate Treetop Village and attack me for 9.
Yeah, I can put you to 1.
And that puts me to 1. That's not good. Yeah, if that's the case, at 1 life, I don't think I'm going to get it there.
Do you have a mountain left in your deck? I mean, you could just draw a bolt off the Crackling Drake, too, and I have the trophy, so you get the mountain.
No, I think I figured it out. I've got to play this thing in the ice and force the trophy on this, and then sleight of hand into a removal spell here. Let's trigger the thing.
Okay.
And that does not count. Which one of these can potentially get me there next turn? I guess I'll take this one because that can, because of the trophy. So take this one, pass the turn.
All right, kill thing.
Okay, I will find a mountain.
Yeah, kill tracker.
I am going to cast a Manamorphose and hopefully kill it.
That'd be pretty nice. Although it can't be Lightning Axe, right?
I mean, I'd have to discard the Drake, which would probably not be good. I have 2 bolts left in my deck.
And 4 Phoenixes.
I haven't been great at finding Phoenix this game. Yeah, I was between Manamorphose and looting, and looting's not really doing much. Let's make red-blue so we can draw a Thought Scour into our spell, and that's not it. You're 12.
Guess there's a chance that I just get combo killed next turn.
That is another way I can win.
Pretty terrifying.
Maybe I'm supposed to save that Manamorphose just to like potentially combo kill you, but at 12 that seemed really unlikely.
2 triggers. I'm going to kill your Sparbluff Canal and hope that you only have 2 and 2. Most lists play 3 and 2, but I think Austin actually only played 2 and 2.
That would be incorrect.
All right, I'm incorrect.
Attacking for 5.
Yep.
So I go to 5. This does, though, stop me from playing Bolt plus Drake, which would let me survive the next turn. But your other option was just attacking with a creature land, which would also stop that from...
I could have just cast Tomahawk as well.
Yeah.
Bolt plus Drake doesn't save you just because I have the creature lands. But...
You would have to have another land. Because you're still 1 short of activating both.
Block Bolt, hit you for 5. If you play Crackling Drake and Bolt...
Somehow I thought Bolt was dealing with both of those. I don't know how.
I don't know.
So I'm at 5, you're at 12?
Yep.
Bolt does not have trample.
All right. So Faithless looting into 2 more spells, discarding 2 Phoenixes, and I'm dead. Or no, you have to discard all 4 Phoenix and Final Lightning Bolt. Looting from the grave. Man, that's probably the place where I see Crackling Drake the most in that deck.
Serum Visions.
Yeah. For those of you unaware, I absolutely hate Crackling Drake in the deck.
Did I cut Arclight Phoenix? Is this a joke?
I don't know. You might want to double check. Nope, they're all there.
Yeah. There's just 3 in the bottom 8 cards of my deck.
Yeah. Yep.
Ooh, we shuffled a million times, but...
Oh, yeah, you did shuffle a bunch. That's not really indicative of where they were the whole time.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know. I think Drake would have been the perfect card there if you just didn't have one of each removal spell a turn after you didn't have any. You can have Liliana, too. Deck plays a lot of removal spells, but
yep.
That was a very easy way to steal that game that most things put me very far behind against.
I mean, that's fair. For me, it's more of a meme at this point. I just really don't like Crackling Drake, so I love pointing out the times where it's bad.
Yeah.
Because I have yet to find a single time where it was good. All right, while we're shuffling and sideboarding, any questions from chat / comments about how bad Crackling Drake is?
Kind of. This is for Ross.
All right.
What metagame call influences the decision between having Snapcaster, Terramander, or Young Pyromancer in the last 2 creature slots for Phoenix? You can roll that into if you think Crackling Drake should also be in Phoenix.
So for me, it's about how aggressive you want to be. Like Terramander is another actual threat, whereas Snapcaster Mage really isn't. The 2/1 body is not why you're playing that card.
Yep.
So the question becomes like how well prepared are your opponents to answer your creatures? And if they are well prepared, then Terramander just gives them more targets for them, whereas Snapcaster Mage gives you some way to grind, a better way to grind through that removal. But if you really need to be racing your opponents, then Terramander is going to be better. Granted, I think right now Pyromancer Ascension is the best card in those spots because it is the actual best card at grinding through a bunch of creature removal because it's also not a creature. So I'm pretty high on Pyromancer Ascension right now. I wish I had played it last week.
Yeah, I mean, I watched Tarek Patel play. He had 3 copies of Pyromancer Ascension and 3 Surgical Main, and I think that is quite possibly the strongest build for the Mirror I've seen. It's very difficult in the Mirror to interact with the Pyromancer Ascension. Game 1, it's impossible. And Surgical helps with Phoenix, whereas Gutshot is mostly useless. And I just watched him multiple times on camera, and the first day of the tournament, just completely obliterated his opponent with Pyromancer Ascension, in spots where any other threat would have been quite bad. Here I'm looking at siding out these Liliana of the Veils. Minusing on Thing in the Ice is obviously insane, but we have 4 push that kind of fill that role anyway. I like most of my threats because I need to beat down, and I like most of my removal. It's possible that I should just side out discard spells because so much of Ross's deck is just redundancy. And the discard spells like Thoughtseize and Inquisition are just kind of flat 5s, you know? Like, they don't really take anything that's overly good. But any point of interaction, I think, is okay, just because I can sometimes steal a Manamorphose, which will slow them down, or after sideboard, maybe hitting a Chandra is pretty good. But we definitely want to bring in our anti-graveyard stuff. We can handle his normal threats pretty easily, but we really start to struggle when he gets his Phoenix Engine online. So Spellbomb, Grafdigger, Surgical, these can all come in. And like I said, the Lily of the Veil, like, the minus is only good against Thing in the Ice. The plus is pretty bad against an opposing Arclight Phoenix. But as someone who's played Phoenix against Liliana quite a few times, sometimes Liliana of the Veil is very good against you. So
Yeah.
I just think that there's a less of a chance of it being good here. So, I don't know.
I'm wondering on these Abrades, usually I like them against this style of deck because they have a lot of like, creatures you need to kill. Sometimes they have Cage. You know, Todd has one over there. But there's not really any card in my main deck I want to bring out. I know Surgical is bad. Austin did not play any Gut Shots in his deck, has fewer free spells. Already has a good amount of removal in the main deck with 4 bolts, 2 axes, and a slash. And we're bringing in Beacon Bolt and Chandra, which can double as removal spells. So maybe we don't need a Braid to deal with creatures. But that does leave us pretty vulnerable to Cage, which is better against a build with Snapcaster Mage than it otherwise would be. You know, it's still not the end of the world. But that one Cage could be problematic. Is that enough for me to want to play Lightning Bolt over, you know, a Flame Slash? Or play a Braid, over a Flame Slash? Slash is probably the weakest removal spell, being both sorcery speed and not answering like big Tarmogoyf, but it is an answer to Kalitas, which is a big deal in the matchup. It can sometimes tag an Ooze that you're playing around Lightning Bolt that a Braid wouldn't. So I think I'm going to try without a Braid to start and just cut the Surgicals for Chandra and Beacon Bolt.
I like that. I mean, there's something to be said in a deck like yours about over sideboarding. Like, if you take out too much of one thing or another, like, your deck just starts to kind of be clunky. You know, people sometimes cut stuff like Thought Scour or Opt or Sleight of Hand whenever they don't know what to sideboard out. In a lot of those scenarios, it's best to just not sideboard in anything because your deck just runs so smoothly when you draw a couple of cantrip spells. Your deck is designed to use the cantrip spells, you know?
Yeah, I completely agree that a lot of the sideboard guards I've seen floating around cut cantrips too often.
Yeah, I mean, not to say that it's wrong to never cut them, because obviously if you play against Athalia or Chalice of the Void, you can't always afford to have a hand that's just a bunch of Serum Visions or whatever. And in those matchups, I think it's correct to trim some number of one or the other. But for the most part, you know, you're playing like 16 cantrips because that's what your deck does. You know?
Yeah.
All right.
You make all your other cards worse when you start cutting on those.
Any more questions?
Yeah, I got one from Lethargic Prelude.
All right.
Are the Traverse's versions of Green Black X decks just worse, or is Traverse being overlooked?
So I've seen versions that play a few Traverse. Those are usually in the Shadow builds, and they play Mishra's Bauble. And a lot of those are actually Death Shadow decks. I wouldn't really classify those as Traverse, because this archetype is a lot more controlling. Revolving around hitting your opponent with discard spell and then sticking Dark Confidant and then chaining that into just like an overwhelming steamroll advantage. And the Traverse ones have a bit more aggression with Grimflayer attacking early, as well as sometimes, you know, being a lot more aggressive with Death Shadow. So I would classify them as just different decks. And even though they play roughly 30 or 40 of the same cards, I think that just the black core of like Thoughtseize Inquisition, Lily on the Veil, Fatal Push, like those 16 are pretty, or, you know, or 12 or 14 or however many you want to play of the discard effects. Like those are fairly ubiquitous across multiple archetypes. And then as far as green goes, like, you know, Tarmogoyf, Scavenging Ooze in some number, like those kind of sit around as well. So I don't know. I like this list a lot for whatever that's worth. So if you're interested in Golgari Midrange, I think this is where you should definitely start. All right, let's do one more.
All right. There was one earlier talking about, would you think Phoenix would be quote-unquote healthier if looting was replaced by careful study?
I mean, it would be worse.
It would be worse.
But healthier for the format, I guess.
I don't know. Those kind of hypotheticals are always super weird to me because you have to jump through a lot of hoops to make that happen. I would say that the easiest way to just make Phoenix worse is to ban Manamorphose if you want to keep the format kind of basically as is, but either knock down Phoenix a peg or without killing 5 decks.
Yeah. You'd still have a lot of the explosive starts. The deck would get significantly less resilient because flashback on looting is
you don't flash it back that often. Like I would say, I would say that probably once per game that goes more than 5 turns. But a lot of times, like you just kill your opponent on turn 4 or 5.
Yeah, you're not flashing it back in those games, but every game where they interact with you, it's the card that stops you from flooding. It gives you this density of spells later in the game, so you can draw a cantrip, play a cantrip, even if you break off that, flashback your looting, find another cantrip, and then get your 3 spells. So it's really easy to get up to 3 spells a turn when you know you're starting with the looting in the graveyard. Sure. You basically need to draw a single cantrip, and you're probably good. So those 2 aspects of the card really power your late game. With both Phoenix and just finding your other threats and making sure you don't flood. Because, when you play 20 cantrips and Manamorphose and Thought Scour don't give you control over the card you draw, even with 18 lands, you end up drawing too many in a lot of games. So it's the card like Brainstorm in Delver decks and Legacy that when you draw too many lands, you pitch 2 of them away. Your opponents are giving you a lot of extra lands now with Field of Ruin, Path, and Trophy. So the flashback is an important card, especially now that the metagame is adapted to Phoenix, and so you're getting a lot fewer of those free wins than you did a month or 2 ago.
All right. Well, you're going to be on the play for game 2. How's your opener look?
Looks pretty solid, pretty threat dense here, which I like, and All
right. I got a really good one. We're going to keep it. Okay. The first 4 had no lands, and I was like, oh no, I don't want a mulligan, and then I had just 3 lands. So.
I am going to go to 17 for Steam Vents. I want to try to avoid finding basics because I want as many in my deck to search for with Assassin's Trophy and Field of Ruin, and we'll lead on Serum Visions. I think a lot of people wouldn't cast this Visions on turn 1 here because they think you need to save cantrips for the turns when after you cast Thing in the Ice or want to return Orclight Phoenix, but the deck is so dense with them that you're likely to...
The odds of you having a replacement cantrip in the top 3 cards of your deck is very high.
Yeah.
And even though top 4 cards or 5 cards of your deck, because you can scry to the bottom if they're all lands or whatever.
Yeah. And this lets you find your extra Phoenixes more readily, your extra threats, your key pieces of interaction, and it stocks your graveyard for Pyromancer Ascension and Crackling Drake and things like that. Right. So, okay, well, I like...
It also just sets up really sweet turns for, turn 2 or turn 3 getting back an Arclight Phoenix, too. Scrying 2 is pretty powerful. Powerful enough that they banned Preordained. So
I like both of those cards, kind of.
The best time to cast Serum is turn 1. Straight up.
Yeah, I like both of those cards. We'll top them.
All right.
Just going to plan for a longer game.
Draw. Now Spellbomb. Your turn. Something that I'm pretty happy to see in my opener because it effectively shuts down a potential for a big explosive Phoenix draw.
We'll just get our Thing in the Ice down.
That was actually an interesting turn. Because he could... there's a chance that he's able to transform Thing in the Ice next turn, but I think I'm oddly okay with that. And if he doesn't, I actually want to start pressuring his life total. Sorry, I'm going to play this. We're going to play a Tarmogoyf, and it's going to be just a 2-3 right now. But it can grow pretty quick here with the now Spellbomb or Ross casting an instant or something.
Todd, can you flip that dice so the...
Sure.
Thank you.
Importantly here, Lightning Bolt would not kill this Tarmogoyf because the spell would resolve and go to the graveyard, and then you would check to see if it dies, and at that point, Goyf would be a 3/4.
I'm sorry, Doug, can you do a little lower? I'm sorry. Beautiful.
I am very unlikely to be able to transform this Thing in the Ice, so I'm not going to try this turn, but what I will do is cast a Snapcaster Mage and see if Todd wants to blow his Spellbomb for just this.
No, that's fine.
Target Visions.
Yep. That's kind of the problem with... Yeah, go ahead. That's fine.
Then trigger this.
It's kind of the problem with one-shot anti-graveyard stuff like now Spellbomb or even Surgical Extraction is that we don't get to check all of the graveyard stuff, which is why I'm a pretty big proponent of things like Leyline Void and Rest in Peace right now, because they shut down everything in the deck except for Thing in the Ice. And especially if people start leaning towards Pyromancer Ascension, which maybe they will. That makes me think maybe Pyromancer Ascension is good in Legacy.
The wheels have started turning.
This Snapcaster Mage also protects my Thing in the Ice, by the way, from Liliana. I know Todd brought a bunch of them out, but I would not.
I actually flip-flopped. I wasn't sure if we were on top-down camera or not, and you were in the middle of your explanation. I just cut the 3 Thoughtseizes and left the 3 Lilianas.
Okay.
Okay, chat was mentioning that, like, keep the lilies in.
Yeah.
This is another reason that I wanted to play the Snapcaster this turn. I think both these cards are good. There's a question of how I want to order them. So I guess I can just do it. This is the ideal way, and if things go poorly, I still have a way to access the second card. So, yeah, let's just leave top and pass the turn.
All right.
Now, Todd is probably going to have to kill this Thing in the Ice right now, or it's going to transform, which will be, not a big problem because Todd can still kill it, but it'll take a big chunk of damage.
All right,
so it's a 3/4 now.
Yep. I'll attack for 3.
I will take 3. 17.
Had you at 17 from a shock fetch on 1.
Yep, that's 14.
True. Now, whether or not I want to play a Scavenging Ooze into a Lightning Bolt, I think since I have the Spell Bomb already on the battlefield, I'm just going to wait until a point where I can play the Scavenging Ooze and activate it twice. Say go. So what Ross was talking about last turn with the little tricky stuff with Tarmogoyf before it gets shrunk and stuff, and against Lightning Bolt, the turn he played the Snapcaster and targeted Serum Visions, if I actually pop Spell Bomb on him in response to that, not only do I not get to draw the card, but it's the only card in the graveyard at that point, and a Lightning Bolt does kill Tarmogoyf, so he would have that 1 mana to be able to deal with it, which not great, Jim.
You have 5 in hand?
Yep.
4. This is a really interesting turn that I'm not at all sure how to play. There's no real good way for me to use the card that's on top of my deck right now. But I do want to deal with this Tarmogoyf before it gets out of hand. I'm already at 14. I would kind of think that Todd is like holding up a removal spell here rather than advancing his board, which also lets him hold up Spellbomb. I think that just holding up Spellbomb is kind of a weakish play. But as he was talking about, exposing Scavenging Ooze to a Lightning Bolt is kind of rough. Though it's going to be a while before it's not exposed to a Bolt because there's only the one creature in the graveyard. I could play pretty conservatively here and just go for this and see how Todd reacts to that. If it dies through a trophy, so be it, sort of. That's like the worst tempo play, but I would still be able to do what I want to do anyway. Yeah, I kind of like that. So let's Manamorphose.
Okay.
Because I want this card that's on top of my deck. I will make blue-red. Let's play a Tarn and crack it, go to 13.
Yep.
I will get an island. Let's cast a Crackling Drake. Draw a card.
Yep.
And attack you for 2.
18.
Pass the turn.
Trophy of the Drake.
I will find a mountain.
Alright, I'll draw for turn. Just gonna make... I think it's still the same, right? Instant land creature.
I might have effects still on your turn. So I'm wondering if there's a way... Like if Todd Nile spellbombed...
Now spell on myself is still just 4/5.
Self, it's still a 4/5.
So if you have axe, it's dead.
Is there a way that I could... Is there a way that you untap and I'm not able to axe it?
Yeah, because it has to be a sorcery that goes to the graveyard or Planeswalker.
Yeah, I guess you can go then.
Okay.
sure Todd's walking me into some ridiculous way.
I don't have... You think I'm malicious, and you, sir, you are the bad one. All right, attack.
Are we the baddies?
Are we the baddies?
So now I have to be a little worried about a Scavenging Ooze, too. So I think I take one more hit of this.
Okay, so you go to 10?
10, yeah.
I'm going to... Fetch to 17.
Yep.
Get Forest. I'm going to play an Ooze.
Yep.
And say go.
This is not going super well.
What you got? You need a big turn here. I guess just killing both my creatures is probably good enough. Pretty good turn.
You have 2 cards in hand?
Sure do.
It's hard for me to play super proactively here because Todd has 2 green up for the Ooze. I could just hardcast this and pass. And that sort of develops my board, stabilizes the battlefield against what Todd is doing, and leaves mana up for my own interaction. So I kind of like that. Okay, Arclight Phoenix.
Okay.
Pass the turn.
So we can play around Bolt and just untap. We can't really play around Block plus Lightning Bolt on the Ooze, so I think I'm just going to, one at a time, target Crackling Drake.
In response, I will Bolt the Ooze.
All right, in response, I'll exile Thing in the Ice.
So you're going to gain 2 to 19.
Yep.
We still have a creature because the Ooze is dying, so.
Yep.
Goyf's still a 3/4. I'd be pretty happy to double block here, even if I lose both creatures to a removal spell plus the Nile Spellbomb. It would just sort of empty out everything, and the Snapcaster already got some value, so I'm not really behind in cards. Yeah.
Trophy the Phoenix.
I will find an island.
Yep. Alright, that dies. Tarmogoyf's still the same size. I'm gonna shock down to 17 and play another Tarmogoyf. Best turn. Now, 2 life here is not free. The Phoenix deck does a good amount of burst damage. 17 is a rough one to be at because it's a hit from a Thing in the Ice plus, I don't know, another thing plus a Phoenix
So
or something like that.
You're at 17?
Yep.
To my 10? It's an interesting draw. Okay, I'll play a Sleight of Hand.
Yep.
Definitely want this one. I will Thought Scour myself.
Okay.
I will Lightning Axe the untapped Tarmogoyf, discard Spire Bluff. Go to I guess that's more awkward than I thought. Maybe I should have thought more about this. Because now I'd have to cast this now, and then the Goyf will be a 4/5. I guess it's a 4/5 already.
Yeah.
Because Todd has 3 types in it. Todd will put a 3rd type in his, or a 4th type in his graveyard.
Yeah. The Now Spellbomb will leave it at a 4/5, actually.
Oh, so that wasn't going to kill it anyway. But I guess I can just do it this way, so that's fine. Go to beginning combat, trigger Arclight.
All right, with a trigger on the stack, I'll go ahead and pop Spellbomb and draw a card.
I will snap the Lightning Axe.
Yep.
And cast it, discarding... I think I'm just going to discard this looting and leave my spell with an actual spell.
Okay.
So we've dealt... Took us a lot of cards to do it because Axe and Snapcaster play awkwardly, but we've dealt with everything. Now we have a Snapcaster. We both have 6 lands. We're pretty even on cards.
Yep.
Excuse me.
Now he has free reign to just start beating me down.
Attack for 5. You go to 12. Pass.
Go. This is the part of the game where the Golgari deck is not nearly as good as the Izzet deck, though. I needed one of my Tarmogoyfs to survive. Could have just let him have an Arclight Phoenix. Played around the Snapcaster Mage, but...
That's a good one.
Also could have just main phased, but he still would have had the...
Go to 7?
Yeah, the Axe in the yard.
Play a Chandra plus to exile.
Yeah.
You go to 5?
Yep, I'm dead. Can trophy the Chandra and take 5, so I'm just dead.
Yep.
Dead. I mean, I'm at 2, but very few cards off the top do much. A really close game until that huge turn from Ross. I don't know if there's a lot I could do about it, especially just drawing 3 lanes in a row or whatever after it was all said and done.
Well, one of the advantages that Izzet Phoenix usually has in matchups like this is that at the end of the game, I'll have 4 or 5 lands in play, and you'll have a lot more because I pitch the extras to looting and only play 18. Granted, the Golgari deck has so many utility lands that it's able to counteract that to some extent, especially with Quagmire being able to trade with a bigger creature. And
all right, think about bringing in Damping Sphere just to keep Ross from having those really ridiculous turns. But I'm generally not a fan of bringing in Sphere against Izzet Phoenix, so... It's possible that this is the type of deck where it is good because you just need to buy yourself time in the early turns and then keep them from having their explosive Phoenix draws. But with a lot of anti-graveyard stuff, I don't think that that's too problematic. That game just made me wish I had 4 Leyline of the Void in my deck, though, instead of Grafdigger's Cage and Nile Spellbomb and stuff like that. Just... getting hammered on a different graveyard card in response to your Nile Spellbomb is just frustrating, to say the least. Yeah. All right, any questions while we're shuffling up?
Yeah, a couple. One, sadly they're both for us. Sorry, Todd.
It's fine.
What do you think about mission briefing in Modern Phoenix?
It's worse than Snapcaster Mage.
I barely think Snapcaster is playable in the deck, so would not play an instant sorcery that does the same thing, even though it does work with Thing the Ice and Phoenix a little bit better. The strength of a card like that always comes with what do you get out of the initial mana investment. In Mission Briefing, you get nothing. You just get a Surveil for 3. And with a Snapcaster Mage, you get a 2/1 body, which can be leveraged to do a few points of damage, especially when you start talking about stuff like Lightning Bolt.
Yeah, 2/1 body can pressure a Planeswalker, can be sacrificed to a Liliana, can double up with a bolt to kill a bigger creature, can pressure them, which is still something. Bat gets returned to your hand with Thing in the Ice for more value. There's a lot of little things. I sort of downplayed the 2/1 body because it's not great, but it still is significantly better than what Mission Briefing brings to the table. And you saw, and when you have a couple basic mountains in your deck, blue is not a significant, not the same as a colorless and a blue.
Yeah.
Just want to point out there that you had turn 1 Nile Spellbomb in that game, but I was still able to fully resolve both of my Snapcaster Mages, which is a point sort of against Nile Spellbomb. It's hard.
I'm not the hugest fan of it. That did not look good.
Yeah.
All right, one more.
Well, this one's just a quick one. Ross, how does it feel to be one of the creators of the leading modern deck?
It feels pretty good. I did a little retrospective on the deck with Nick Miller this past weekend, and we talked a bit about that. And For me, it's a new experience being in this position because over my career, I've typically just played good decks with fairly stock lists. Maybe changed my sideboard plans here and there when I disagreed with what the Hive Mind was doing. But I've never really been the person that innovated a new archetype, and so it's been a really new experience having a lot of people come up to me and say, I'm playing this deck because I saw you build it and it looked great. Thanks for that, or people coming to me as sort of the expert in the deck. That hasn't happened very often in my career. So, that's been a new thing and it's been fun. I've certainly enjoyed it.
And I've been jealous. I'm just kidding. No, it's great. All right. Well, as far as game 3 is concerned, I'm on the play and I will keep my pretty good opener, though it is a bit awkward.
I mean, this is another, most of your hands are pretty similar with this deck, but against a discard deck, it's really nice to have not only redundancy in your deck, but this hand specifically has basically 2 of everything.
Yeah.
And so it's really resilient to a discard spell. So I've got 2 lands, the perfect number.
Yep.
I've got 2 removal spells for a threat. I've got 2 actual threats, and then I've got a cantrip to, dig for other things.
Yep. The way my hand is set up, I'm actually just going to take sleight of hand. Just kind of let him kill my stuff, or I'm just not even going to cast my creatures. I have a removal spell for the thing in the ice, and I don't want to play a creature so he can lightning axe and discard the Phoenix. So, your turn. So, I'm at 19.
Yep. Well, that was pretty good. I will crack this for Steam Vents. Once again,
17.
Don't want to find basics, though. I might be doing this a little bit too aggressively in this matchup. Like last game, I felt like my life total was a bit under duress until I was able to deal with both those goyfs. This game, I've happened to draw the one Wooded Foothills, so I'm going to find a Steam Vents anyway. But last game,
how do you feel about the one Wooded Foothills that Austin played? Because I know that you're a huge proponent of just the 2 blue duels, because fetching up Island after sideboard with the Blood Moons is important. But what maybe just fetching up a mountain to shoot something with a burn spell on turn 1 without hurting your life total so much.
Yeah. So the big thing is that I'm not a fan of the 3rd Steam Vents.
Sure.
And that there's a lot of ways to. There's a couple options you can play in instead of that. I've been playing a Sulphur Falls recently and been pretty happy with it. It doesn't come into play tapped very often at all. When it does, it hasn't really punished me. And it's quite good against burn and other things being a painless land. Though I think the 1 red fetch is a reasonable card in that slot, and I believe that's what Austin played. He only has 2 Steam Vents, but not one that I've thought about because I've been so happy with Falls. Let's once again play our Serum Visions. That's a good card. And I'm not that happy with either of these. This one's okay because I definitely want to hit a 3rd land drop, but you don't really want to aggressively keep lands in this matchup because the games are going to go pretty long, and you really need to be threat dense. Given that the discard spell didn't take my thing, I have to assume that this is going to die, or Todd has another discard spell. So I'm really looking for more threats to replace that thing in the ice that will almost assuredly die. I'm a little worried about a Liliana killing it, so I might not even play it next turn. And if that's the case, I also want to dig for things to do on my next turn. This card is definitely bad in this hand. It just doesn't. We don't have a way to get another Phoenix in the graveyard, and I just don't think I want to keep another land. I'm going to bottom both.
Okay.
Could get punished for that.
Your turn.
Todd, Rye Guy says you created Team Your Recollection and he loves the deck.
Thanks, dude. Appreciate it.
Now Spellbomb is annoying, given that we're sure our thing is dying. It lets Todd more aggressively play his threats, knowing that I'm not going to axe with Phoenix.
Are you deep in the tank today?
Yeah, it was an awkward draw after this. Now I'm kind of wishing I had the land, but I didn't know that that's going to be the next card. I'm assuming this is going to die, but it dying to a Liliana is really rough. So I think I'm... what happens... So the problem is, if I play this thing in the ice, and Todd untaps and Lilies it, yeah, that's bad. But if I don't play it, and Todd untaps and casts Liliana, that's not much better.
Yeah. Still pretty good.
I think I just have to play it. Pass the turn.
Right, I have the Lily. I don't have the land yet. Whoop. There it is. All right.
18. Yeah, getting pretty punished for not keeping the land here. Maybe I was wrong to, like, maybe I really needed to guarantee it because I had this card in my hand. This Liliana's going to work me.
All right.
Them ribs.
So I'm at 18.
Yep.
Your turn. I mean, you could just peel Bolt, you know.
Okay, well, we drew a land at least, so now I don't feel bad about scrying that one to the bottom. I am going to play a Snapcaster Mage. Targets Aaron Visions.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, with knowing the Axe and Phoenix in hand, I don't think Todd's blowing this Nile Spellbomb anytime soon.
Yeah.
So, let's draw and scry, and... Is this card good? You know, I think it's going to be good eventually. The problem becomes if Todd has an answer to this. I guess I have to play around Liliana, though. So I think I want both of them. So I'm just going to leave both on top.
Okay.
I'm going to pick these cards up because you're probably plussing Liliana.
I might not.
Sure. You know I have /Axe Phoenix.
Yeah. My Lily's going to die because I'm not wasting my removal spell on a Snapcaster Mage right now. So let's just go Tracker. We'll fetch tapped and make 2 clues while you're tapped out and go to 17. And I could hold up a black for the spell bomb, but I don't think Ross is going to pop his Arclight Phoenixes or 1 Arclight Phoenix next turn. I could be wrong on that though, so it's possible I should just be getting a swamp just to play around it. I think that's probably actually correct. And now, I think, how many cards do you have in hand? I know you have Axe, Slash,
and Phoenix.
And Phoenix.
I have 2 unknowns.
So I think a tick up and just pitching a Dark Confidant here is fine because it allows me to just translate Dark Confidant for a random card in hand, which I think is fine because, you know, it's relatively dead against the 1 mana removal spells that he has currently. And with our clues, we're just planning on utilizing a lot of our mana over the next 2 turns. But
you have 1 card in your hand?
This is face down. 1 card. Honestly, maybe I should just actually discard Trophy instead of Dark Confidant. That's actually kind of tough. I think I just can't really do anything about a Crackling Drake next turn, though, so... Alright. Here you go.
Okay. Slash the tracker, attack Liliana, and I will pass the turn.
Yeah, no reason to pop the Spell Bomb to cycle it. We have a couple of ways to draw cards already. Let's go draw.
Yep.
And we'll force him to have the removal spell here. So go. If he does, that's fine. If he doesn't, that's also great.
Attack for 2.
Yeah, I'm at
15.
15?
You got 15.
Okay. Yeah, I fetched 3 times. Yep.
I'm going to play an Ascension.
Yikes.
And I'm going to Axe the Confidant, pitching an island, trigger Ascension.
Yeah.
Todd could use the Nile Spellbomb to stop me from getting a counter.
But that doesn't work.
It's not an intervening if?
I don't think so. On Magic Online, you cannot do that. It's weird.
No, it's not an intervening if, so you can't do that. My bad.
No, it's
I
fine.
just assumed that the card was templated that way.
Mm-hmm.
You have 1 in hand or 2?
1 card.
Okay. Pass the turn. Disappointed to have to use the axe on a Confidant. Like, I didn't want to keep both axes because it's just such card disadvantage at that spot, but now I'm out of really removal spells that deal with big creatures, so, you know, Kalidas or Tarmogoyf or a Scavenging Ooze is a big problem.
So what it can do now, I don't have to trophy the Pyromancer Ascension right this second. I can actually kill it with the 2nd plus on the stack, and then if he has another way to put a counter on it, he doesn't actually get the extra copy, so it's very unlikely he's able to turn it on in the face of this trophy. So we are just going to say go, and if he plays a Crackling Drake, we're going to have a decision to make. But we know he has Phoenix.
I'll scour myself.
You don't have one in the yard, right?
Correct.
So, that's fine.
Attack for 2.
Okay, 13.
13. Play a thing in the ice.
Yep.
Pass the turn.
Push thing. Trophy Ascension.
Just killing everything.
Yeah, but I still just like can't really afford to pop the spell bomb because you have another Phoenix in hand. But I might do it anyway if I draw a brick this turn. The odds of you, I mean, you probably just are going to cast the Phoenix, right? And that's, you have one card other than the Phoenix?
Correct.
We did draw a brick, but we can contain the Snapcaster Mage, and if I draw a removal spell, I actually get to knock the Phoenix off that's in play and get the one in the graveyard. And there's no real other graveyard threat at the moment, so I think I just say go. Or I'm going to play my lane. Even though I have Tracker in my deck, I want to be able to like activate Quagmire to block next turn. That's stupid.
So
It's not stupid, but
I don't think there's any reason to run Snapcaster into Quagmire because it gives you like my bigger creatures Liliana protection. So I think I'm just going to play Phoenix and attack for 3.
okay, at 10.
Pass the turn.
I'm going to do a weird thing. I'm going to crack the spell bomb, target you. The draw card goes on the stack. I'm going to draw a card first and try to draw a removal spell for the Phoenix in play. We missed. Exile your graveyard. Play a Tarmogoyf. Play Blooming Marsh. Your turn.
How big is that Tarmogoyf?
I have Planeswalker. I have no sorcerer. I do have a sorcery, so it's 5/6. No, 6/7.
Yeah.
6/7.
He's a big boy.
He big. He big.
That was a good draw.
God, if you could put the dice a little lower. Basically, that edge of your deck, perfect.
Banner always gets in the way.
That is correct.
That's 6 right now for my Beacon Bolt, so I guess it's a good thing I have a Manamorphose in my hand. Make blue-red.
And now me not playing the Bloom March means I'm going to take an extra 2 from that Snapcaster Mage.
Beacon Bolt for 7.
Yep.
Attack you for 5.
So 5.
Go to 5. Pass the turn. Well, drew my one out to that Goyf. That was very good. And now I have it in the graveyard against not after the spellbomb's gone to kill something else. Bolt you twice.
Okay. And that's how the cookie crumbles. Deck that is supposed to be, quote unquote, pretty good against Phoenix, just getting completely smushed, even though I drew anti-graveyard card. The problem.
You're also supposed to be good going long, like this good grindy game, and I'm able to win 2 long games. You know, you saw that at the end of that game, I had 4 lands in play to Todd's 7.
Yeah, and I gave you one, too.
Yeah, so. Exactly. And I kept so when you had the Liliana and I scryed with Visions, I kept a land on top in case I needed to cast Arclight to deal with it. And then you played in a way so I didn't have to do that, so I kept it in my hand, was able to pitch it to an Axe instead. And then you gave me the 4th land to deal with the Ascension, and so I didn't need to ever play it. So, you know, even though 2 of Todd's lands were utility lands, he didn't really have good spots to use them. And so you were down virtually 3 or 4 cards just because of land counts.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of the danger of playing a mid-range deck in a format with decks that can just utilize the graveyard with a bunch of cantrips. You know, like, you're going to be able to utilize your mana more efficiently over the course of the game. On average, you're going to draw fewer lands on average and more spells. And if I don't have the right answer for the right threat at any given time, there's a chance that I just lose on the spot. Like, my draw in games 2 and 3 were not bad. You know, like, I had a piece of interaction, a piece of graveyard hate, and multiple threats that you had to deal with, or else you were going to be under, like, some serious pressure. Like, game 2, I think I drew double Goyf. You had Axe plus Snap Axe, and I had to use my Spell Bomb in a weird way that allowed you to go Snap Axe on my second Goyf. Now, I think it's just important to note that when the graveyard hate isn't absolute, when it's not Rest in Peace or Leyline of the Void, you just don't really get to pinpoint attack a deck like that. You know, they get to use Pyromancer Ascension and Snapcaster Mage and Arclight Phoenix, and if you don't hit them with one of the ones that just exiles their graveyard completely, they're just gonna beat you with the other one.
Yeah, and those cards, Leyline and Rest in Peace, still put you down a card, and like the cards that I'm playing still have modes outside of the graveyard. Arclight Phoenix you can cast. I did it in that game. Snapcaster Mage, sure, it's still going to be a 2/1 creature. It'll do something. And the Crackling Drake and Beacon Bolt still get their effects. So there's not look. The only card you really shut down is Ascension with those, and so you're effectively trading your Leyline of the Void for their Ascension. And if they haven't already cast the Ascension, they get to pitch it to a looting at some point. And you're really giving away giving back some of the card disadvantage that they're engendering in themselves by casting Faithless Looting. It's still not a particularly effective card. And Nile Spellbomb at least gives you another card. It was a little awkward in those games because you wanted to leave up mana for it, and you had to make those decisions.
I think it's disingenuous to say that something like Leyline is not that good against your deck. I've played your deck a lot. Leyline of the Void means that you're relying on Thing in the Ice to do like 90% of the work, and when you're playing against a deck with Leyline and Fatal Push, that seems pretty hard to do.
Yeah. Leyline by itself is not automatically good, but it can be, as if you cover the holes that Leyline leaves with the rest of your deck, then you're in good shape. But it's still, it's not a KO. Everybody thinks of Izzet Phoenix as this linear deck, or at least they did. That's starting to change. A lot of people, myself included, have written about how it's not, and that's one of the reasons it's good. It can attack you in all these different angles.
Yep.
The funny thing now is that we've gone through months of me and other people telling the hive mind that Rest in Peace and Leyline of the Void aren't good, and you shouldn't be bringing them in unless it really makes sense with the rest of your deck. And we've seen a drop-off in those cards, which is part of the reason Dredge has been as good as it has been recently. But now we're seeing these at Phoenix decks move to more graveyard-oriented cards because people are playing Surgical Extractions.
Right.
And so you can have multiple different graveyard cards, and Surgical only hits one of them.
Yeah, I mean, that's why, the backup threat of Crackling Drake, that was your original iteration. You had, 3 or 4 of them?
I have 4.
Yeah, four in the original version. And then slowly people started to cut 2, and then they would play either Young Pyromancer, and then Terramander came out, and then they tried that, and then Pyromancer Ascension, people tried that. And now I think it's kind of coming full circle where the alternate threat, like you said, that everything uses the graveyard except Thing in the Ice, but it doesn't, it doesn't get really beaten by Surgical Extraction except for Arclight Phoenix, right? And so when the one-shot removal or graveyard removal, like we saw there in games 2 and 3, now Spellbomb just kind of needing to be safe for Arclight Phoenix because it's going to kill me. If I let it come onto the battlefield from the graveyard, it's going to kill me. And we just saw Snapcaster Mage just eat me alive. Just the body on it was quite relevant. And then just being able to flash back your best spell both times, whether it was, I think, maybe a Lightning Bolt once and a Lightning Axe the other time.
Yeah. So Snapcaster Mage was very impressive in those post-Sideboard games. It definitely makes sense that it would be impressive in a matchup like this. You need a few extra resources to help you recover. The 2-1 body can help your removal trade up.
Yeah, and unlike Pyromancer Ascension, you also get that immediate impact of the recast of the spell and the body, where you drew Pyromancer Ascension in that game, and I killed it. It didn't do anything. And even if I had killed Snapcaster at any point, you still got the extra removal spell or the extra card draw, and that allowed you to continue to find more pressure. The Chandra in game 2, for example, which closed the door. Even a backup Arclight Phoenix casting them for 4 mana, 3/2 haste is not bad. Most of my creatures don't fly. All of my creatures don't fly. None of my creatures fly. That's a better way to say that. It was a very interesting match, and a lot of things came up, a lot of really cool points. So we'll just call it quits there. Let's take 2 questions if we got them.
Yeah. So a lot of people asking about Vapor Snag in the 75. What do you think?
I've heard a lot of weird cards people are trying now. I've heard Vapor Snag, which I don't like because Vapor Snag is very singularly minded. It's a very aggressive Magic card, and this is not a singularly aggressive deck. I've heard Pongify.
I've heard Pongify as well. But what's the other one that's basically the same thing?
Rapid Hybridization.
There's 2 cards that do effectively the same thing.
It's 1 blue instant. You destroy any creature, and then that creature's controller gets a 3/3 token. In one case, it's an ape. In the other case, it's a frog lizard. But they're both green and 3/3s. So it's cool with Thing in the Ice, where you can kill a creature and then trigger Awoken Horror and bounce the token. You can also kill your own Arclight Phoenix and then have it come back that turn.
That's impressive. I actually quite like that.
Yeah.
And
Wow, mind blown.
there's a bunch of uses for a card like Pongify or Rapid Hybridization in your deck, because not only does the 0/4 body of Thing in the Ice just block it, you also have the ability to transform and bounce it. And like you said, just turning an Arclight Phoenix that's in play and not really having a lot of added value, you just put it back in the graveyard where it's supposed to be, get an extra 3/3 body for a blue mana. And a 1-mana removal spell that kills any creature has some merit. So I actually quite like that one as a potential one-of.
And, as people bring in a bunch of removal spells to deal with your stuff, I think you're finally seeing that happen a lot. You can slow down, play your Thing in the Ice in turn 3. When they go to kill it, give yourself a 3/3. Now, do they use a removal spell on that? Otherwise, the 3/3 gets in some damage. That's problematic. The same thing that if you were around for Mono Blue Devotion and Thera Standard, they put Rapid Hybridization as one of the key cards on that deck.
Yeah.
You could deal with Desecration Demon, deal with Pack Rat early if you needed to. You'd usually trump the 3/3 on the battlefield at some point.
Frostburn Weird, your 2-mana 1/4 dealt with it quite nicely.
Yeah. Or you could just kill your own creature in response to a kill spell to keep that aggression going.
Yep.
You could also target your own Thassa and get a free 3/3 if that was turned on. So
Yep.
there are a lot of cool modes for that. It dealt with Pack Rat and Desecration Demon. It dealt with Stormbreath Dragon if that was a problem. It could deal with Master Waves in the Mirror. So it dealt with all the widest range of threats. A card's kind of underpowered. I'm kind of interested in that one. I think it's pretty good against Death Shadow, where any body is relevant, and dealing with giant shadows is hard. Sometimes even your Beacon Bolts just aren't big enough. You don't have 10.
Yeah.
It didn't get to 10 yet. And just being a 1-mana instant is really nice. But basically all your creatures attack around it, right? Unless you've already transformed to Awoken Horror, in which case they're probably dead. So, your Awoken Horror is going to bounce it before it attacks. All your other creatures fly. Unless you have Snapcaster on the battlefield, then you can't attack with Snap. So I'm interested in that one. But Vapor Snag, again, this deck wants cards that are versatile in those 1-mana slots, or cards that cost 0 mana. So Gutshot, either narrowly powerful or very versatile.
Yeah.
And I don't think Vapor Snag is either of those.
That's true. But I also think that there's some merit to just cutting Izzet Charm because of how...
I haven't seen it as a charm in 2 weeks.
Yeah, I mean, it's... Ever since I think Michael Burnett cut it, and then everyone cut it. But before that, everyone had it.
Yeah, I had one. I think the format's just a little bit too refined now, too fast.
I agree.
I think Guillaume Montagnon had one, actually. Sure. We'll see his list coming up later.
All right. One more question?
Yeah. So there's also a question about where was it? The benefits between the two Kalidases, because evidently the deck can play either or. Yours has Trader of Get. People are asking about Trader Blood Chief, the other.
The one that costs 7 mana?
Yep.
What?
Benefits this Golgari mid over the standard rock with Khalid.
No, I think you're just misreading the question, or someone asked a bad question. It's fine. Kalidas is quite good in the deck. I'll just try to broad strokes answer why Kalidas is there. Jund has Bloodbraid Elf. Older versions of Jund used to play things like Huntmaster or the Fells or whatever whenever Bloodbraid Elf was banned. And I think it's just important to have a pretty strong follow-up after you play Liliana the Veil and either start plussing or minusing. And Kalidas right now locks down a lot of those creatures that utilize the graveyard. So, and on top of that, just being a pretty powerful threat by itself that has life gain means that against burn, you have a thing that if you get on tap with it, you can't possibly lose.
Yeah, you just trade really, really early as much as you can to buy time. Play your Kalidas on 4 and carry that. It's good in every creature matchup. It dodges Lightning Bolt. I think Kalidas is really good right now.
No, I do too.
A couple months ago, Jadine was trimming Bloodbraid Elves in her Jund deck to play Kalidas.
Well, that's awesome, but also Bloodbraid Elf sucks, so that makes perfect sense.
Yeah. But once Bloodbraid Elf sucks and Hooligan's Command isn't very good, and Lightning Bolt isn't very good, why are you playing red cards in your deck? So we fixed that problem.
Yeah,
we just call it red cards.
Kalidas, pretty strong. I think if I had drawn in any of the game 2 or 3, I would have won very easily as a follow up to after you were 1 or 2 cards left in the hand. Anywho, that's gonna do it for the first match. But don't go anywhere. We're gonna take a short break. We got 2 more matches coming up. The other 2 finals from the 2 Grand Prix from this previous weekend. Grand Prix Tampa. Saw Matt Costa facing off against
Roshan Epen.
Roshan Epen coming off basically back-to-back Grand Prix top 8s. He top 8'd the one in Los Angeles, I believe, with his same Death Shadow deck that we're going to be utilizing, and I believe that's the match that we're going to be bringing next.
No, that's the last one.
That's the last one. Next one we're going to do, was it GP Bilbao?
Yeah, this is Bilbao, Guillaume Montagnon against Luis Samuel Del Tour.
Yep, and Samuel Del Tour actually has a bit of notoriety for actually building the mono blue devotion deck that you so often reference as one of your favorite decks. Actually won the Pro Tour where that deck had the big breakout performance, I believe.
That was Jeremy Desani.
No, Jeremy got top 4. Oh, no, Louis was in top 4. They were on the same team. And
Pierre Dagen was the other person in that top 4.
You're right. What's Louis famous for?
Being the second place finisher in 4 different Grand Prix, 0 trophies. He's the Grand Prix.
Wow,
he's the Grand Prix Tannin Grace. Yeah,
GP Tannin Grace.
He's the. Or I guess he probably gets it first because his streak goes back longer. But
sure.
so Tannen is the SCG Del Tour. But yeah,
anyway, we're going to be playing that matchup. It's going to be Izzet Phoenix, where Guillaume Matignon actually won against what was Louis playing?
War Prison.
Playing War Prison. So we're going to be bringing that to you next. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.